I just appreciate everybody watching.
Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive, this is Trap or Dive.
Cheers.
Oh, hey, nigga, I'm about to say, just know I'm about to go straight to the liquor store after this, John, too.
Hey, you should have already went.
Hey, nah, you're right. You're right. The first thing I did when I got off work, hit the liquor store. Oh my goodness.
Gotta do that back in the office, man. That shit draining.
Hey, bruh, this was the day I was in the office too. That's the funny thing. I was like, son,
y'all back?
Yeah, 3 days a week for me.
That's not too
I'm
bad.
1 day pay period, so basically 1 day a week
That's
I gotta
not
go.
bad. Yeah, that's not
Oh
bad.
shit, that's all right.
That shit light.
You still looking good.
That shit light. Hell yeah. But now I still need that drink though. Listen. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast, provided to you by 214 Media. I am your host, Molly Maul, and Dog Maul, Coach Maul, all that good stuff, man. Here with the good man, Montel, Mr. Hefe,
Yes, sir.
Jordan,
Yes, sir.
Jeff Gordon, all them nicknames that he got. And then we got the good man, the legend on Twitter, DC Sports Dre, co-host of the Trap or Die podcast. How y'all fellas doing tonight, man? Y'all good?
Absolutely.
Shit, man. Better now that I'm off work. Like I was just telling y'all before, man. Shit, I'm happy to be off work, man. Got to do it again tomorrow, though.
I was just going to say, it's always good to be off work, but we always got to go right back. But,
hey, that marathon, I'm running it.
Exactly.
Montel's hilarious, bro. That man drinking the drink and drinking some water at the same time.
Gotta stay hydrated, bro.
It's a weekday. It's a weekday. He said this ain't the weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Turn up.
Man, fuck all that, bro. Do you know what I'm doing when I get to that liquor store, bro? No water. I'm drinking water tomorrow.
You probably already drink a gallon. So
No bullshit. I really do. What y'all drinking on tonight? I know you drink the brown. Bourbon. Dre. What type of brand is it?
I'm just with the simple makers tonight, man. Nothing special. You know what I'm saying? Just little makers. You know, straight up on the rocks.
Okay too. You like Jamaican too, don't you?
That's what I'm drinking, bro.
Oh yeah, see,
shit.
Come on now.
I like that. Hey, well, listen, man. Everybody that's watching, or listening, however you are listening or watching, make sure that you always rate, review, like the show. If you are new to the Trap or Dive, make sure you follow on Twitch. If you are not following or subscribe on YouTube, if you are not subscribed, man, it helps the show grow. We appreciate it. Now, we did decide to record this episode, and it's all on me. I know if you follow on YouTube, there were some people who were paying attention to the countdown. I did take it off damn near at the last second, so that's on me, but I just didn't feel right what was going on, man. It was kind of weird to kind of promote a live stream and even do live stuff just in my eyes with the situation that's going on today in Texas. So my condolences to everybody over there on the Serious store. I just didn't feel like doing anything, so we're gonna record, but we will make it up next week because the fellas are going to the Commanders OTAs Tuesday. Wait, is it Tuesday or Monday? I think
Tuesday, the 31st.
All right, so Tuesday we are going to be at Commanders OTAs in Ashburn. We will be able to check the team out for a practice session, and I'll make it up on the back end with a live session that evening, and we can talk all things Commanders once again, all in the Trap or Dive space. So that being said, fellas, let's get to the agenda, man. Coaches speak. The second session of OTAs are underway. Ron Rivera was asked a ton of questions about a ton of things, but we narrowed this thing down to talk on some key topics, including your boy Carson Wentz, Montel. So we're going to get to him. I ain't leave that boy out. We're going to talk about that, man. We're going to talk about that, man. So OTAs again, second practice underway. Ron Rivera spoke. We're going to go through some quotes. And that's going to be it for us today. But key quotes, key comments, key concerns, and questions. So first things first, we got to get the no-shows out the way. Speaking of no-shows, as we were starting this show, something else happened. Something else was reported probably about 10 or 15 minutes before we got live. So that's going to actually spark up this debate a little bit even further. So I'll go ahead and get the quote going and just let the table or let the conversation flow the way it wants to. All right. So Ron Rivera, post-practice, said the following on Chase Young, Terry McLaurin, Montez Sweat, and Cam Sims not being at practice. Quote, well, as far as I know, or as far as Montez is concerned, he had a personal thing that he was taking care of. We expect him back tomorrow. Chase, for the most part, is working through rehab. He has met with his doctors, though, and they formulated a plan. He's completing that right now, so we will have him here eventually, and I believe the next couple of weeks he'll be here. Terry, obviously, we're working through his contract, so I won't get into specifics about that. And Cam had a personal thing family-wise, so I think he's having a baby. So he's excused as far as that's concerned. So that's why those four guys aren't there. The guys that were here, very pleased with what we got out there in spite of weather today. And to follow up on Terry's contract situation, he said that we've had communications with them. We've been working with them. It's just a matter of time. Now, fellas, it's a two-parter here. The first part is, given that Cam Sims and Montez Sweat kind of have an excused absence, we don't have to worry about them in this conversation. But Chase Young, Terry McLaurin, is there an issue with them not being at practice for you all? That is the first part. The second part is what to make of the new report with Daron Payne, who was there dealing with contract situations, walking out of practice. So in contrast to what Terry is doing, Daron Payne was actually at practice and he walked out due to his situation. So the floor is yours, whoever wants to take the first stab at it. Chase Young and Terry McLaurin, and then Daron Payne and his situation.
Dre, you the vet. I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I mean, as far as Chase Young goes, I guess he is rehabbing, although, I mean, I guess that's a legit excuse. Last year, he was doing other things, but this year, I guess he's rehabbing. And I guess his goal right now is to get back on the field as soon as possible. I know he mentioned something about a week one timeline. So I guess I don't have too much of an issue with Chase Young missing. Terry McLaurin, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he's getting advised by his agent. I mean, Terry I think he's the type of person who would be there regardless, if it wasn't for that. But his agent is, advising him of this because they are trying to work on that new contract. So, that's another one I'm not worried about. Plus, Terry has shown that, he's a pro's pro. He's a guy that's going to, know what's expected of him. He knows what's going on in the offense. He's going to come prepared. So I'm not worried about Terry missing. He's not one of those guys you got to worry about like, oh, well, his head's getting too big or whatever the case may be. Terry, I don't think you'll ever have to worry about that. So when he's here, he's here. And hopefully they resolve something with the contract soon. And lastly, the Daron Payne thing, now that does kind of annoy me a little bit, like just hearing that, because it's a way to handle things. He could handle it like Terry, and I don't think there'd be an issue. He can go out there and be like, okay, well, I'll show up for whatever portion of this, but I'm not going to participate in drills. That's what Terry did. Terry kind of made it known early on that he's not going to participate in drills. He said, I'll show my face, at OTAs, whatever the case may be, but I'm not going to participate. But Daron Payne, on the other hand, it's like you just walk out. It's like some kind of protest. Like, that's not a way to get a contract done. I mean, to me, that's a little childish in a sense. But, I mean, everyone is different. They handle things different. But I think there's a right way and a wrong way to go about things. And I think Daron kind of tried to do a demonstration in a sense. And I don't think that's the right way to go about that whole ordeal.
So while I agree with you, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, and I'm going to just work backwards. Because I do agree that Daron Payne handled that situation the wrong way. I would much prefer you not show up to OTAs, very similar to Terry McLaurin. But as you stated, there is a way to do things. And our team didn't do things the right way by leaking that they weren't going to pay him on his final year of his contract. As a team, you don't do that. But again, that's just me playing devil's advocate. It's one of those things where teams can say and do what they want, but when a player responds, their response can get overblown. I don't think that that's fair. Now, do I think Deron Payne was right? No, but I also think that Washington played a part in him being frustrated and angry. You can never say that somebody's response is overboard. That's how I feel about that. And as it pertains to OTAs with Terry McLaurin and Chase Young, I don't have an issue with either or, but I also view this as a result of last year with Chase Young not coming to OTAs getting overblown, in my opinion. If a player isn't going to come to OTAs and it's voluntary, we shouldn't blow that out of proportion. And I feel like Ron Rivera was kind of singling him out last year. And I get it. He wasn't the only player that made it. He was the only player that didn't make it. I'm sorry. But you don't single out a player. You know what I mean? Like I said, like you said, there's a way to go about things. And I understand you want your guy there, but some things you keep private because it's a brotherhood. It's a football team. And you're supposed to always have your guys back. I don't feel like Ron had his back in a lot of situations last year, even singling him out when the defense began to progress, when him and Montez weren't playing. You know, he kept saying, discipline. These guys were just playing more discipline. We all knew he was talking about Chase Young. That's just something you don't do as a coach, and it left a nasty taste in my mouth as a fan. And I'm sure Chase Young felt the way about it as well, but that's last year. But again, I don't have a problem with players not coming to OTAs. It's voluntary. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. I understand the hierarchy and what looks good and the optics of the situation. But as you mentioned, and I'm going to say this again, there's a way to go about things. And I just don't feel like at times, even though players, you know, they, like I said, Deron Payne, and there's certain things that they can do better, we also got to acknowledge the other side. So
yeah, it's different, man. I'm trying to think of, like, I know there's been walkouts before, but I don't necessarily remember exactly how it went down from start to finish. But according to the report, too, specifically, let me bring it back up. And who reported this so I could give him some credit? Rob Goldberg. No, Ben Standig. Okay. Am I reading this right?
Yeah. Well, Ben was who I saw reported.
Yeah, Rob Goldberg is the third party. He's just covering what Ben said. So Ben Standig reported it and said that Payne was present at the start of OTAs, but reportedly moved to the side field and skipped team drills despite not dealing with any physical injury. So, I don't know how you.
We got to find out more.
Yeah, I'm about to say you got to find out more, because when you mentioned the angry and frustration part, it was a light bulb in my head. Like, do we? And I know you're not necessarily literally saying that's your point or that's your stance. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. But it's like, do we know if he was really upset or if this was like a calculated business decision? Like, all right, I'm not gonna go too deep into these workouts. I'm gonna go ahead and step to the side and figure things out. So I don't know. It's kind of weird because, like I said, I don't know. I don't remember many like how walkouts happen from start to finish, but for him to still be present at the practice is kind of different, and it's weird in the sense that I don't know how to process it right now. I think we need more, but in that same vein, I brought it up to you, Montel, before you got in here, Dre. I was like, I would love to know how people are approaching the situation with Deron Payne, the people on social media, how people are approaching the situation with Deron Payne compared to how Terry's doing it. I'm gonna tell y'all this right now. The wording confused me with Terry's side, because I knew in the workouts in March or April, whatever, I don't know, I forgot what they were called, but those workouts he was there, but he didn't participate in on the field drills. And I'm like, I think I told you, Dre and AJ, I would rather you just fucking not be here. Like, what's the point of you even doing all of that? Like, just not be there at all. Like, if you're gonna hold out, bro. Like, there's no half-assing. Like, if you're gonna do it. And I was so confused because, like, so that's kind of how I view this whole thing. So if Terry is not there in OTAs at all, I understand that approach, just not being there completely. So I don't know if he was like at practice and just didn't participate. I don't know if that was the same case here with OTAs. But I just feel like if you're gonna hold out, bro, and don't half-ass it just to show that you're a leader. Like, everybody knows that, and that's not going to change. Like, you're still going to be a leader, but get your money, bro, and show them what's principle. Like, this is a business, and you understand that. Your agent knows that. Show them what's principle. So personally, I'm like, if anybody needs to show some, you know what, it got to be Terry, bro.
Yeah.
Put your foot down, bro. So that's kind of where I was at when it comes to comparing Terry and Deron. I don't know how to process Deron yet, but I could definitely tell you Terry should have not showed up at all. That's kind of where I'm to.
Well, Jamal, I guess in Terry's situation, for my thoughts on why he would, do the halfway thing, it's more so probably to prevent injury in the workouts. Like if he gets injured in a workout, he's not going to get paid in his contract. So in a sense, he's there, I guess, to show face, as you said, as a leader. And, I guess to probably welcome new teammates. I mean, I don't know if he's been there recently because I know I listened to Jahan Dotson, a little bit of his interview or press conference today. And Jahan said he hasn't met or talked to Terry yet since he's been drafted. So I'm not sure if Terry may have changed his stance. I don't know if he's been there at all since, this whole thing has went down or since they've started OTAs. But yeah, I mean, I guess like I said, in a sense, the whole not participating part is to prevent injury. But with Deron Payne, like I said, it's just weird because it's like, to me, it was a protest. Like, hey, I'm here and watch me walk off. But, as you all both mentioned, we don't know if he talked to Rivera. We would have to know more. Maybe he told Rivera that's what he's going to do. If he communicated that to Rivera, then that's all cool because Rivera understand, okay, this is what you're doing. Fine. That's cool. But if he just did it in a situation like, hey, look, I'm pissed off. I'm walking off this field just to show you off. I'm like, that's a little weird to handle it. But hey,
Yeah.
But again, we don't know if he had a conversation with Rivera or not, because obviously Ben Standig just reported this, so Ron Rivera didn't get a chance to comment on this. Maybe he'll comment on it tomorrow. So maybe this is something he's been in communication with, just like Chase has been in communication with him about, his rehab schedule and Montez family issues and Cam Sims and all of that. So we don't know. We need to know a little bit more about Deron Payne before we fully dig in on that.
Yeah, and I guess my concern becomes. And this is just looking down the road, probably too far down the road, but it's like these players, they want these contracts, and if we're playing in a big game, as fans, it's a big game to us, and it's in late October, and you're nicked up just a little bit. Do you go and play that game because you're Deron Payne? You like, look, I'm trying to get paid. I'm not gonna get paid here. Do I go out here and risk it all, knowing I'm not going to be here next year, or should I just relax for 2 or 3 weeks and rest up and recover? So that's just that's these contracts, man. It throws a monkey wrench in everything, but it's concerning that he walked off the field because it puts in question his commitment to the team. So that's just where I'm at with that. That's why it looks really bad again, but we don't know what happened. But if that is in fact what happened, then it looks bad.
Yeah. Okay, fellas, let's go ahead and move on to the next quote. Your boy, Carson Wentz. Ron Rivera spoke on him and Troy Aikman. So Troy Aikman made a comment and essentially said that this is the last chance for Carson Wentz, and the media, I don't know, they don't credit the people who asked this question, so they just asked if he agrees with that statement. And Ron Rivera responded with the following, quote, "That's fine. I think this is a good opportunity for Carson. I really do. I think he's a guy that's wanted. We want him here. We went out and traded for him, and we do expect some good things from him and for him. Very pleased with what we got, and he's done a heck of a job." Fellas, what would you say the truth is if you were Ron, or if you're predicting Ron's opinion? What do you think he's really saying? Because he just said that's fine. He didn't really give a yes or no. And secondly, what is your opinion? Is this Wentz's last chance with the NFL?
I think that Ron is aware that a lot of what has come out pertaining to Carson Wentz is hearsay, or as I call it, hearsay, because it's just a bunch of BS. I think a lot of it is media driven, and you know my philosophy, Jamal. I've always stated this: the media controls the minds of the masses. If you really watch Carson Wentz play, and I found myself at home this Sunday watching a rerun of the Baltimore Ravens versus the Colts, Carson Wentz can play football, and there's not even a question about that. Like there is no question. Of course, at times he can be sporadic. Of course, he can make bad throws, but so does Kirk Cousins. So does Derek Carr. So does Ryan Tannehill. So does Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't tell me that any of those guys are definitively better than Carson Wentz. If you just sit down and watch football, and even the numbers back that, but I'm not even like a huge numbers guy. But when we talk about Wentz and that situation in Indy, and again, you know how I feel about Wentz, I think that his worst year by far was that final year in Philly. He looked absolutely terrible. There is no defending his play. But at the same time, that year, Philly was ravaged by injury. You probably couldn't even, his number one go-to was like Travis Fulgham. And he made him look decent that year. But when I said their offensive line was injured, the running back was injured. And that's not to make an excuse, because we can make excuses for everybody. But when you surrounded him with a new supporting cast last year, he looked pretty good. I'm not saying he was great. I'm not saying he was Tom Brady, but he was about a middle of a pack quarterback. You don't get rid of guys like that. And I can guarantee you, one, I feel as though some of this is also because he's coming to Washington. Washington right now has a terrible rep as far as the media goes. But again, I think Ron Rivera is aware of that. He's aware that every move that we make is going to be scrutinized and put under a microscope. He's aware that a lot of what is coming out of Indy is personal. And you can tell, if you're a reasonable human being, you can tell that all the stuff that's leaking about Carson Wentz has become personal. And of course, he could have played better at the end of last year, but they could have also played better at the end of last year as a team. He played well in spurts at the beginning of the season where the team wasn't playing well. So I would challenge anybody to just go back and watch some of those games last year and tell me you don't think that Carson Wentz can play football. Because if you feel that way, again, it may just be a personal feeling. That kid can play. That man, I'm sorry, he's not a kid. That man can play football. I think that Ron Rivera is aware that there's a lot of media hype coming out as it pertains to Wentz.
Well, before you go, Dre, are you saying, just so we can get an answer on your side, you disagree with Troy Aikman that this is Wentz's last chance? And I'm assuming he's saying as a starter, not necessarily in the NFL, but I'm assuming he's saying as a starter.
I do disagree. I feel like if Wentz comes out this year and he gives you the same numbers that he did last year, and he goes 27-7, or something around that. I'm not saying specifically or exactly, but if he goes 27-7 again, and Washington is 9-8 as a team, I don't think this is his last stop. Nor do I think we even get rid of him. I don't think we pull the plug as quickly as Indy did either. I think Indy is a little cocky. I think they've replaced multiple quarterbacks. I think some of that has to do with that as well. They're a little bit cocky.
Now, I'm going to say first off that I agree with Montel 100%. On Carson Wentz, especially the stuff that's come out of the Colts camp, Jim Irsay. I think it's been a lot of unprofessionalism coming out of the Colts camp in regards to Carson Wentz. And to me, while Carson Wentz wasn't great last year with Indianapolis, I think it was personal. I think a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Indianapolis right now is personal, and I think it stemmed from the whole vaccination thing, and Irsay held a grudge about that because last year that was important, like being vaccinated and not, missing games. I mean, we saw it with Washington. I mean, shit. I mean, the last end of the season playing against Dallas and Philadelphia, we were ravaged with COVID protocols. And, I don't know if a lot of those guys were vaccinated or whatnot, but that's what happened in Indianapolis. Carson caught COVID at the tail end of the season, at the important part of the season where they were trying to make this playoff run. And Irsay was pissed that he wasn't vaccinated, and it kind of affected practices, and then it affected them down the stretch. Now, like I said, that's not to say that Carson was a great quarterback with Indianapolis last year, but I do think Carson was a good quarterback for most of the season. And as Montel said, he's right there in that Kirk Cousins range. All of those guys, a lot of our fans sit back and say, oh, well, Kirk Cousins was the best quarterback since this, that, and the third. Well, Carson Wentz is right there. He's the same type of quarterback. Like, he's a guy. I mean, if you look at it, 2020, as Montel said, was his worst season. I mean, and that was an anomaly. Just as a lot of people point out that 2017 was an anomaly as how great it was, 2020 was an anomaly as how bad he was in the NFL. Because outside of 2020, Carson Wentz, 2017, he's great. Every other season, he's been a pretty good, solid quarterback every year. So I think that's the type of quarterback you can expect. I know a lot of fans sit back and they talk about Carson Wentz and they say, well, if we can get 2017 Carson Wentz, no, you don't need 2017 Carson Wentz. I mean, that'll be great if you can get 2017 Carson Wentz. But if we get 2018, 2019, even 2016 Carson Wentz, 2021 Carson Wentz, we're a much better football team than we were last year, especially with the way the schedule is. Carson Wentz, in my opinion, he's going to have games where he looks absolutely great. I mean, he's probably going to give you about 4 to 5 games where he probably looks great. Then he's going to have some games where he just looks about average, and then he's going to have a couple of games where he just throws some duds. So, I mean, that's what separates Carson from the elite quarterbacks like the Patrick Mahomes and the Aaron Rodgers, because he's going to give you those dud games. But he's also going to have a team like Washington in the mix in the NFC. He's going to have you competitive in games. He's a quarterback that's not going to really have you in a range where you're talking about 4-12, 5 and whatever, 4-13. Yeah, Carson Wentz is going to have you. He's going to have you in the mix. So, I mean, and it's going back to the question about Ron Rivera and his thoughts on Troy Aikman. Now, Troy Aikman was right. I do agree with Troy Aikman's statement in that, this is Carson Wentz's last chance. And the reason why I say that, it's a perception business. And the perception is Carson Wentz the last 2 years, he's been dumped by 2 different teams. Now, I do think the Colts situation was unfair. The Eagles, I mean, they probably felt it was time to move on. They drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round, and they had some damage situation with him anyway, with the injury, the whole Nick Foles situation. So it was kind of a buildup of things why the Eagles got rid of him. But I do think the Colts unfairly got rid of him quickly. And I also thought the Colts put themselves in a bind by getting rid of Carson Wentz so early, because they didn't have a replacement when they got rid of him. They were just hoping for the next best thing. And that's when they landed on Matt Ryan. And they just signed Nick Foles, I think just this week.
So weird, bro.
Yeah.
Old Philly quarterbacks, bro.
Right.
Fucking Carson
Wentz, and Frank Reich. Frank Reich is just bringing them back, And I honestly don't think Frank Reich wanted to get rid of Carson Wentz. I don't think that was his decision. I think that was all Jim Irsay, and Chris Ballard had to fall in line with what Jim Irsay wanted. I mean, he's the owner, So that's why they got rid of Carson Wentz. But again, I do think perception-wise, it would be his last chance as a bona fide starter. But I also looked at Ron's response as, I think I'm right in what I did. I feel like Ron's response was, I'm right in what I did, and you all are going to see. So we are going to see this coming year who's right.
Yeah. For the true nature of the question that was asked to Ron, I agree with Troy Aikman. I think that this is Wentz's last chance. I think you all did a good job providing context from the Colts side of things. And obviously his last year in Philly was rough too. It was very rough. So I think you all did a good context on that side. But on the player himself and the situation that he's in Washington, Dre, you hinted on it and you said, like, perception league, it's always about what have you done for me lately. And I think one of the things that's going to put a lot of pressure on Carson Wentz is the fact that, you're going to have to perform here. You're going to have to show out and actually, make a substantial difference in the NFL for the Washington Commanders in 2022. And what substantial means is, now, while Washington can kind of be like, 9-8, to Montel's example, 9-8, similar stats to last year, passing touchdowns, interceptions, like, sure, we'll keep you for another year. That's not necessarily convincing anybody, though, really. And to be honest with you, if we fast forward to the end of the year, who's to say that Washington doesn't cut bait because they're looking for a first-round quarterback, or maybe even moving on from Sam Howell if they decide to give him some reps at the end of the season. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but we don't know, like, the other variables in place. But back to the quarterback himself, I think Carson Wentz has to understand that, or Ron Rivera, excuse me. I think Ron Rivera has to understand that you gambled on a guy, not only who was about to be on his 3rd team in 3 years, you also paid a hefty price financially to get him on your roster. And you are asking or telling everybody, look, I'm willing to pay this shit because first off, we need a quarterback. But secondly, I have a strong feeling that Carson Wentz can perform in this offense. I have a strong feeling that he is the person who could take this vertical style offense over the top and produce make a significant difference compared to Heineke and Garrett Gilbert, and even to an extent Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like I'm about to make this bet for Carson Wentz, a guy who had like that Jacksonville Jaguars game at the end of the season. It wasn't all on him, but when you talk about what he could do to make that team better, he wasn't the difference maker offensively when you kind of expected somebody to take a step and to make a difference in that game. Nobody made a difference, and it sucks because the quarterback that you brought on your team wasn't able to overcome it either. And I think that's the issue from a coach perspective, understanding what your quarterback could have done. It's almost similar to like what Kirk Cousins couldn't do in Washington. Like if you take yourself out of the situation, defending not you all but people defending Carson Wentz from a Washington standpoint, saying that it wasn't all on him, which is true. Think about all the times that Kirk Cousins was in Washington and couldn't produce in week 17s and week 16s, and we're trying to tell you it's not all on Kirk Cousins, but in the same vein, it's on the quarterback to overcome these deficiencies and overcome these situations. A lot of people are not understanding, especially if you didn't like Kirk Cousins, but you're in favor of Carson Wentz. You have to understand that these things are important. It's about overcoming those situations, and I think that was also a factor. While it wasn't the ultimate factor, I think there's other reasons, as Dre mentioned. I just think that you have to understand that this is a reason why if you're paying $28 million for a quarterback like Carson Wentz, you have to be right if you're Ron Rivera.
You want to know what's so funny? Because when I worked at my former job, this was like right before we picked up Wentz. A guy asked me, he said, man, if you could compare Wentz to anybody, who would you compare it to? And it wasn't like his play style. It was more so his production. I said, he would kind of remind me of Kirk Cousins a little bit, kind of sporadic. And Kurt used to get on my nerves. But one of the things that I could appreciate about Kirk is I went into every Sunday feeling like we had a chance. Now, whether we pulled it off or not, that's a whole nother story. And he didn't show up in a lot of games. But as a fan, I've grown to see, post Kirk Cousins, if you don't have one of those guys who are top half of the league, you can cancel Christmas. It's gonna be a long season. You're gonna go 4-13, and you know what? You can go into every Sunday like, oh yeah, we getting blown out this week. That's not a fun feeling, bro. And as much as it was some weekends. Kurt would ruin my entire weekend. I'll never forget that Giants game. And most importantly, I'll never forget because I was in a restaurant with Jimmy. It was week 1. We played Philadelphia in Washington. We in Fridays. I'm going crazy. We driving down the field. We about to tie the game. Kirk Cousins throw a back-breaking pick, and I'm pissed off because he wanted to get his money. I would probably rather take those moments again any day over last year. Over last year with Taylor Heineke, or the year before with RP, rest his soul, with Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith. Because those I went into every Sunday knowing, man, we done this week. It ain't no hope. We got Dallas. Oh, that's cool. They're gonna run through us. Yeah, I would rather take my chances with Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz than going back into that cycle of hell, essentially. It's quarterback hell. It's quarterback prison. You need one of those guys. And I know, you know what? We may not get to the promised land, but you have a chance. You have no chance. You have no chance with certain guys.
I was going to add to that with Montel. So with Kirk Cousins, I wasn't the biggest Kirk Cousins fan, but I always think about Kirk on that Monday Night Football game against the Giants. It was always the Giants. I think he threw like 5 interceptions that game. I was like, this dude, he picks the worst time to just have the worst game.
That was Thursday night too, yeah.
Was it a Thursday?
That was a Thursday night.
He threw like 5. I mean, it was just and it was Rogers Cromartie. It was somebody that just kept picking him off in that game, and I was like, this dude just kills me. But no, so going back to Jamal's point with Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz and picking him and being confident in his guy, it made me think about, if this works out, we owe a ton of credit not only to Ron Rivera, but to the guy who's always done right by this franchise, and Joe Gibbs. Ron Rivera said this offseason that he called Joe Gibbs to consult him about the quarterback search. And Joe Gibbs gave him a criteria of about 5 different things he should look at when he's trying to get a quarterback. And Ron Rivera mentioned that he had a couple of guys in mind. And then when those guys, I guess, couldn't, be available, Carson Wentz was the guy that checked off all of the rest of those boxes. And something else someone mentioned recently that I've been reading is that this will be Carson Wentz's first time in an Air Coryell type of system. Scott Turner runs an Air Coryell system, which Joe Gibbs ran, which runs a lot of downfield concepts. Whereas Carson Wentz has kind of ran a West Coast offense all his career in the Doug Peterson, Frank Reich schemes. So now he's going to be actually running a system for the first time in his career that actually highlights his strengths, which is the downfield passing game. The West Coast passing offense is known for kind of we're going to use the pass to set up the run. We're going to, dink and dunk you, or we're going to find the open spots in the short area, the short medium zones. Whereas the Air Coryell system looks to beat you downfield. And Scott Turner runs a lot of those concepts. So this may be a system that actually plays to Carson Wentz's strengths in the NFL. And you got to wonder how much of that influence of that Air Coryell and just those conversations that Ron Rivera had with Joe Gibbs influenced him and made him so sure that Carson Wentz is going to be that quarterback that takes him to the next level. Because when you listen to Ron talk about Carson, he's like, it's me against y'all. It's me against everybody. And I think I won this bet. And I'm confident I'm going to win this bet. So that's something to kind of keep in mind when thinking about Carson Wentz and Ron Rivera.
100% agree. Fellas, we have one more topic to roll through, but there are some quick hidden quotes that I'll get across to the people, and we'll circle back to the running back conversation. So first and foremost, if you all are looking for some updates on Antonio Gandy Golden and his move to tight end, one of the things that Ron Rivera mentioned was, what is the things that he needs to see? Because AGG is essentially on his last leg. Probably the first and foremost things is his blocking. It's hard right now because we're not in pads, but we want to make sure he knows his assignments and knows where he is headed. So we know his skill set as a receiver. It's the size that we really like, to be a guy that can basically play the U or the F position. We can feel pretty good about what he's bringing to the table, but it will come down to his ability to block. Good luck to AGG, a guy who has disappointed many, including myself, because I compared him to Marcus Colston. I was dead wrong. That's why I kept quick comparisons.
No, you didn't, bro. You did not say he was Marquise Colston.
Said that shit when he got drafted. I was like, that nigga remind me of Marcus Colston. Boy, was I wrong. Secondly, Will Adams, VSU. I had to shout him out, Virginia State. DB Will Adams. They was like, first of all, Ron Rivera, first of all, we like his skill set. He's got good size. He runs very well. We think this young guy really hasn't been tapped yet. He has a lot of untapped potential. So he's a guy that we really like. When he came in, he showed his athleticism, showed his savviness already, and it was someone in talking with the coaches was the guy we really wanted to switch out. So we thought that Will was worth the risk. Will signed a 3-year, $2 million deal or something like that with the Commanders as an undrafted free agent. So I'm definitely keeping my eye on Will, man. I got the best of luck for the HBCU fellas. Two more things on joint practices. No, we're not going to focus on. No, we're not going to do any joint practices. We're going to focus on us and really try to work and continue to develop. I mean, we really developed. We really like where we are. It's a young team. A lot of guys has played a lot of football for us already and added some young players. We just feel this is about us focusing on who we are. That one is kind of weird. I will not lie, because he was definitely looking forward to joint practices before the free agency debacle. So interested to know why he changed up his tune. And the last thing before we get to the running back conversation, Curtis Samuel. An update on Curtis Samuel. You said the following: I know who Curtis is. We drafted him in Carolina and saw the success he had. So we believe his skill fits what we want to do. We believe it fits very well. We think he's a guy, as he continues to progress and get healthier every day, there will be some good things for us with him on our offense. I like to believe that we can close the book on his groin injury. Thought he's done a good job rehabbing this year. Spent a lot of good time with our guys, so he's done a lot of good things on his own as well. So hopefully things continue to trend up. Look, that's a wait and see mode with Curtis Samuel. A lot of people are a little annoyed with him, but 2 years left on your deal. It is what it is. We're gonna see something. All right, here we go, fellas. Running back. On a running back depth, he said the following. Well, I think for the most part, it's going to be by committee. Some of the things we did in Carolina, trying to emulate, we had a good two-back system. We had D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, and then Fozzie Whitaker as that change of pace back, third down type of guy. Well, you look at what we have right now, you can say the same thing. So just feel that, it's one of the things that you got that you're going to go with. Who's hot, who's rolling, who's doing the good things, and then you're going to have to spell that guy. I mean, in this league today, you just can't have one primary back. You got to have a plethora of them. And we feel there's a good room right now. Dre, I want you to rehash your thoughts on your comments related to Antonio Gibson, but also just obviously what he just said. But in my mind too, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's part of the business. Clearly, Jared Patterson has the ways to go to start sketching out his name in the minds of the coaches, the running back coach and the head coach, in terms of having that opportunity to get back and see some promising playing time in the regular season. But floor is yours with the running back depth and situation.
I mean, that's kind of what I thought when they drafted Brian Robinson, is that's what the goal was going to be. It was going to be a running back committee. And honestly, in today's NFL and what they like to do, and we've seen Scott Turner's offense, even though we haven't seen Scott Turner's offense with, a bona fide quarterback or a quarterback that can stretch the field like, you think they want to do. They're not really a heavy run team. I mean, they will utilize the run, and they will, if it's a strength in that particular game. I think Scott has shown the ability to kind of go there to the well often. But with Antonio Gibson's, I like Antonio. I like Antonio Gibson. He's been here a couple of years. But I still feel like Antonio Gibson is not the most natural runner as a running back in this league. He does leave a lot of meat on the bone as far as yards on the field when, I don't think he takes the best cuts. I don't think he sees the best, but he's a home run hitter. But you need more than a home run hitter at running back. You need those guys like what they loved in 2020 in Ron's first year, Peyton Barber. They seem to love Peyton Barber because he got the short, tough yards. And that's why you go out and get a Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is that guy that can be like I guess what you would say, a thunder and lightning, like the New York Giants had back in the day with Ron Dayne and Tiki Barber. Now you have your Antonio Gibson and your Brian Robinson. So if Antonio Gibson wants to cough up the ball a couple of times in a game like he's been doing this first couple of years in the NFL, Brian Robinson comes in and he can wear a defensive down if they want to go that route. So I'm okay with the running back by committee. I think that's just how the NFL operates these days. It's not too many workhorses in the NFL. A lot of those guys are kind of rare. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, those guys aren't all over the league, so it's okay. If you don't have a Jonathan Taylor, you should have a running back by committee, and that's why you draft a guy like Brian Robinson to have that kind of dynamic with Antonio Gibson. We're going to kind of, share the wealth, and we're going to kind of see who's hot today and who's not. So I'm completely fine with the running back by committee comments on that.
Not only do I think you should have a running back by committee, I think it's what's best. Reason I say that is because running backs take a lot of hits too. And you see it every year where guys go down. And if you don't have another guy, and I said this last year, if Antonio Gibson gets hurt, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? And I love J.D. McKissick, but you got to be able to keep defenses honest. You got to have a guy who can thump. And the first thing I thought about was the old Carolina team who had Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. The first thing I thought about. And I don't know if you guys know this, but, I watch Alabama pretty much every single weekend. That's my favorite team in college football. Brian Robinson was probably my favorite running back. He wasn't the best running back. I still think Philip Walker was the best running back, hands down, bona fide, straight dog. But Brian Robinson is legit. And I think Antonio Gibson got a problem with his hands. But I hope they do not give up on AG. I feel the same way as you, Dre. I don't think he's a natural running back, but I think he has so much potential. And I'm not sure if he wasn't working as hard as he probably should have because he didn't have anybody to push him. But I think with the guy to push AG, he has Pro Bowl potential. The reason I say that is because he has so much natural athletic ability. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. He can run through you. He can, like you say, he's a home run hitter, but he's 230. That's rare. So I do think that if he puts in the work, he can be a bell cow. But I also think you need another bell in this league. I think you need another. I think you need two bell cows on every team. Same way I feel about Dallas with Zeke and Tony Pollard. I love that combination. A lot of people think Zeke fell off, but I think that they have a nice stable of guys. And I love the Brian Robinson. That was my favorite pick of the entire draft. I think the run game is underused, and I think it's underestimated in today's league. I think a good running back or a great running back or a great running tandem, a great running game can really change the dynamic of an entire football game and an entire season. It gives your defense rest. It can milk the clock. You know what I mean? At the end of the game, when you got to end the game, we can end the game and we don't have to take unnecessary chances. So I love that pickup. I love the running back by committee. And I really do hope that it's a even split down the middle where it's 15-15, or you have one guy with 23 carries, another guy with 16 carries. I hope they run the air off the rock this year. And it's not because I don't trust Carson, but I just think that that's how this team is built. I think we've been built like that. I wanted to see it when we had Geis and Peterson, but unfortunately, Geis had went down. But you got a big O-line, man. You look across the board, you look at Chase Roullier, you look at Turner, you look at Norwell, you look at Cosme. All those guys are 315, 320 plus. They're meant to go downhill. And that's how we need to start playing football. I know Scott loves to throw the ball, but you set up deep passes by running the ball. And I think that's how this team is built, and I hope that's how they approach the season, similar to those old Carolina Panthers who used to run the ball and they were physical teams. That can make your defense more physical. Whether people know that or not, your defense can be more physical because your identity will become a physical mob when you just run that ball.
Well, I was going to say, Montel, you do have a lot of mouths to feed on that offense this year. You got the wide receiver, you got Curtis Samuel. He's looking healthy, and he says he's healthy. We got to see it. We want to see it first before we start declaring anything. You got Jahan Dotson. You got Terry in a contract year. So you're going to have to – and then maybe Logan, if Logan's healthy to start the season. So Scott Turner might see that in his eyes light up. But either way, I do love the options at running back they have this year. As I said, when they drafted Brian Robinson, I said the running back room got stronger. They got stronger this year. They got better. And as Jamal's point about Jaret Patterson, I mean, Jaret Patterson was an undrafted free agent last year. I mean, he looked good in certain spots, but you don't know how much you can rely on that. But either way, you got better. You got J.D. McKissick back healthy. You drafted Brian Robinson. I mean, he played for Alabama. It's running back you at this point.
Yeah, and, come on now.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson's still developing. He's still getting better. I mean, I think he's getting good. You know, outside of the fumbles,
he's 24.
I do think he's getting better. Yeah, he's getting better. You know, but as you said, Montel, you can't put so much weight on one guy at that position because they take a lot of hits. And you got better, but you also got better at the wide receiver spot, which I thought they needed to get better at this year.
Absolutely.
And maybe you got better at the tight end spot as well. I mean, Cole Turner could turn out to be something. A couple of people who watch his film, they say he could be, you know, a pretty good tight end in this league. And Antonio Gandy Golden, I mean, personally, my thoughts on him moving to tight end, I think they're just looking for somewhere to stick him. I don't know if they're just trying to find somewhere where he can stick in this league at this point. But hopefully he thrives at that position. But I think you have a much better offense this year. I think you upgraded at some positions.
Yeah. I was laughing when Montel is so predictable, bro. I was laughing when he was breaking down the running backs, and he said, I don't care if one get 23 carries, another one get 16. That man wants 39 touches minimum.
You know I
from
want
his
to run the
running backs.
rock, bro.
He won 39 touches minimum from his running backs.
Montel said this is 1984, baby. Let's bring it back. Let's take it back to the 80s.
I really think it's underrated. I
Brain,
think
bro.
the run game is so underrated and underused in today's game. I think it's such a copycat lead that everybody feels like, oh, we got to throw. Man, if you can dominate running the ball, I seen Dallas do it in 2016. We 6 years removed from that, but they toted the rock. And honestly, Dallas to this day can still run when they feel like it. They just don't. I watch them every week, just like I watch. They fell into the trap of the copycat lead, but they can really run at will. The Titans, they're a dynamic team because they run
and they got a Hall of Fame back.
Yeah,
you can't. Yeah, they got a Hall of Fame back, so I don't blame him. Feed that nigga 30 times. I don't care if you got 8, 9 in the box.
But they did it without him though. They took Devontae Foreman and turned him into the second coming of Derrick Henry. When you're committed to look at the 49ers, when you commit to it, man, it's tough to it makes you unorthodox in today's game because no one is doing it. Defenses aren't even built to stop the run anymore. So why not do it? Like I said, I think a lot of people overthink the game, man. I really believe
got a
that.
point. I will say that Montel definitely got a point.
I don't disagree with running the ball, and I'm actually a fan of having a balanced approach. I just think when it comes to Washington, if I had to say one thing to counter it, is nothing against what Montel said. It's everything to do with the coordinator, though. Scott Turner had struggled trying to find that middle ground when he had the first couple of weeks to figure things out with Taylor Heineke and his offense and company. And then when things got tougher in terms of the opponents, it became a pass happy team, and that's kind of the inverse of what you want to do against a team against tougher opponents, especially tougher defenses. And I think that when you ask another side note too, I don't know about the Lions. I kind of tend to lean that they have a decent defense. I got to do my homework on the Lions, but the Jaguars are sneaky. And
I was gonna say the Lions scare me. I ain't gonna lie to you. That offensive line is crazy.
And it's not even about win or loss, but it's more so in terms of what I'm thinking right now. I'll worry about win or loss later. But in terms of matchup, I think the Jaguars has a defense that teams need to start respecting. Especially teams who hasn't really established they can really run the ball at will when they want to. And Washington, in order to establish balance, they're gonna have to show that they can run the ball and actually threaten you on the ground. When they've done it at spurts at times last year, at times as well, they just couldn't do it, or they couldn't sustain it from a play calling standpoint. So when it comes to Scott Turner, I think that's where this thing comes in. I don't know exactly why or what goes into his mind in terms of what he's seeing to take shots or to abandon the run because he's seeing certain things on the field. But I think that if you stay true to the backs who need their touches to stay in rhythm and stay with some confidence, you're gonna have to find a way to make this whole thing work. And at the end of the day, it's hard to say whether or not a coordinator actually sucks or not. But what you can say is you can dictate. You can understand pace. You can understand rhythm. And if that rhythm is there when you're watching the game, that can help you kind of determine if he's in his bag, if the execution is right. You'll figure that out later. But if that run game is there, why are you abandoning it? Or if you have any good offsetting plays, if you have some good play action off the top of your run success, use it. But it's all predicated on how Scott Turner wants to approach these games. And if he can get that run game established and find those weaknesses in the defense, I'm all for it, man. It's just that's going to be the biggest challenge. If you want to run it 39 times, you got to hope Scott Turner knows what the fuck he's doing in terms of his run to pass ratio.
Yo, why you had to call me out like that? I didn't even recognize it was 39 times, bro.
He counted.
You petty, bro. Yeah, you petty, bro. You really was doing the math in your head, bro.
Hey, man, I was listening. I get it, and not a 39 number, but if you wanna be a team that wants to run the ball, you got to make sure that your coordinator is on point and recognizes that you're having success and that you can sustain that success throughout the course of a game. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Fellas, y'all got any last thoughts on anything Commanders related? We could talk about it right now.
All I got to say is, man, I mean, I see the stadium talk, and I want to tell a lot of people, stop talking down on PG County, man. Y'all been making a lot of subtle stuff talking about my county, man. Come on, man. To me, it sounded a little low-key racist, a lot of those comments I'm hearing.
Don't it?
PG County. I don't like it, man. That's my hometown. And you know what I'm saying? People calling it a shithole. I understand if you don't want the stadium and FedEx and all of that, but come on, man. Have some respect, man. I'm not calling Virginia a shithole. I'm not calling y'all a, you know what I'm saying, a racist state and all of that, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Just have some respect. I mean, you know what I'm saying? When you talking about PG County, man.
I think it's hard for anybody to call something a shithole they've never stayed.
Exactly.
More than a month. You don't know what it's like. I don't even live in PG no more, but that's home, bro.
That's home. I don't live in PG no more either.
Yeah, PG got a lot. People sleep. PG got a lot. Man. I promise you would love it if you stayed there.
All they know is Landover and FedEx Field. And even still, even with you knowing that, like if you do your homework with the area, bro, you know that it was underdeveloped. And not on the sake of our behalf, nigga. We would have loved to get some money and put some funds into it. But we're getting that now. And even still, with that being said, like, know about PG County, know how prosperous the black people in PG County is before you stick your neck out there and say that you don't want shit to do with PG County. Like I get that shit too on Twitter, Dre. When I talk about the location of Landover and FedEx Field, I'm all for FedEx Field staying there because in terms of a new stadium, I'm all for them staying there because I know what's coming in 5 to 6 years. I know what's going to be there. I know what's going to be in the area. So I'm fine with them having that new stadium there. But for people who have that ignorance, bro, you right, bro. You right. It's annoying.
They hands down need a new stadium though. I ain't gonna lie to you. I love PG, but FedEx is ass. Straight up.
They didn't do any. So I mean, when they created FedEx, what was it? It was 1997. So when they created FedEx, it was just all about a stadium. But now they got to see the blueprint of how other teams have done stadiums and what you build around stadiums. I think if they were, I mean, I'm not advocating to say they should keep it in FedEx or whatever the case may be. But wherever they put this stadium, they're going to follow the blueprint and the trends of other stadiums around the country, and they're going to build bar districts. So if it's Landover and all of that, they're going to build things around that. They're not going to just build a football stadium. People want more than just a football stadium. They want an experience when they come to, watch a football game. Like FedEx Field is not a good experience. But I mean, again, this was 1997 when FedEx Field was, first open to the public, and people didn't care about an experience. They just wanted to watch a football game. Nowadays, everyone wants entertainment. They want an experience. They watch Dallas build a stadium and Dallas build an experience, like to the point where Dallas doesn't have to play a football game. I went to Texas for a work trip, and a lot of people said, hey, when you get to Texas, when you go to Dallas, just go to the tour of the Dallas Stadium. It's a whole experience. That's what they need to do here, regardless of the location of the stadium, to build an experience, a fan experience.
Before we hop off, Dre, I went to AT&T Stadium one time. I am a bona fide diehard Redskin football team Commander fan. That is the best experience I've ever had.
It's crazy.
Cowboy Stadium in Jerry World. I literally kept saying while I'm at the game, I said, damn, the Cowboys know how to do just Texas in general. They know how to do football, yeah. I don't know what it is. And speaking of that, before we get off, Jamal, man, when you feeling about these tickets, bro? Because I'm trying to copy this ticket, bro. I'm trying to copy
the game ticket. I was about to say, we got the plane ticket. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to copy the game. Going out there. He said, by the way, Dre, we're going out there. Whenever you ready, bro.
Okay. Shit, I come out there, bro. I've been to Dallas. I go out there. I can take y'all to some spots out there too.
I would love. Hey, and the city itself. That's another thing. The city of Dallas is a fun city, and you wouldn't even. It's a fun. It's a lot going on. It's a lot to do, man. We gotta get it together out here. Man.
I'm not talking to y'all married folks and people committed. I know Jamal and Montel, y'all both might be committed, but they
still know how to have fun,
out there,
bro.
I'm turning up.
I was
Turn
just
up
gonna
if I go
say
out there, Joe.
they got a place out there that I went to that's the opposite of Hooters out there in Dallas. So I'm just putting that out there. So if you ever like, if you on that opposite end, they got something out there for y'all
I
too out
don't
there
even
in
know
Dallas.
if I like this. What does that even mean, bro?
It means
Opposite.
donkeys, man. It don't mean Hooters. It means donkeys.
Okay.
All right, hey, with that being said, man, let's get out here with the quote of the weekend. We done. So here we go. Lack of direction, not a lack of time is a problem. We all have 24-hour days. That being said, we out of here. Y'all be safe. Enjoy y'all day. Enjoy y'all night. Whenever y'all watching.
Damn, set, hut, watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.